You are listening to A Bazaar Podcast. My name is Sixten. I am your host, and I'm joined today by my two co-hosts.
Hi, it's me, Walter Coolest.
And it's me, MetallFenix.
And the guest today is none other than rank 1 player Rahresh. Welcome, Rahresh.
Yes, I am here
Do
and
you
ready to
wanna?
yap.
Yeah, you can introduce yourself a little bit, just in case there's someone who might not know you.
Uh, I play the Bazaar. I stream at my channel on Twitch by the same name. I also have a YouTube channel with the same name, Rahresh. Yes.
Yeah. So, before we get into today's topic, we have some great news. First of all, you can now find us on YouTube, Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts. We also have an RSS feed. And second of all, open beta for the Bazaar has been announced, coming March 5th. So that's very exciting. If you guys have any thoughts on the open beta, we can discuss that now.
Yeah, I'm very excited for open beta. I think it's going to bring a lot of new energy and new people to the game, and also I'm expecting a lot of new Mac cards and stuff. So I think the pace of content release is going to accelerate. So we're going to see lots of new cards, lots of new shakeups to the meta and stuff with this coming patch. So as excited for that as I am for the fact that it's an open beta itself, but it's really I think it's going to come along with a lot of new content.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite good. A lot of people have probably been waiting since the open beta got pushed so many times. Curious to see how different the ladder ends up feeling now that there'll actually be, in theory, a more constant influx of a bit newer players.
Yes. I hope that, I wish I could donate my gems to new players so they can play ranked right away. They should be able to skip normals, just go to rank so they can face against me. That'd be very nice.
It'd be perfect. It's the true trickle down
I
economics.
I think we should all, like, if we could, we would donate like half our gems. Everyone should donate half their gems to the new players so they can all join ranked together right away and not bother with normals. Yes, that would be the
Perfect.
best.
Yeah, perfect plan.
So, the first topic we're going to cover is what have we all been playing this week? And I think, well, there won't be too many surprises here. I think we've all been playing Vanessa. I know Rahresh has played some Pygmalion as well. So,
Ah,
Rahresh, if you want to start, what have you been playing lately?
I've been playing mostly Vanessa, but I'm playing some Pygmalion as well. Honestly, Pygmalion is fun. The issue with Pygmalion is that the games are slower. Like, I feel like my win rate on Pygmalion isn't like substantially lower than Vanessa. I mean, I lose like, every 6 or 7 games or so, I go like 7 wins. Sometimes I go, I guess, like 4 wins, very rarely, but it's not much lower than Vanessa, the win rate on Pig, and it's interesting. It's different. I mean, it's different class, so it's some variety in the in the monotony of crow's nest, crow's nest, crow's nest, crow's nest.
Yeah, is there anything specific you've discovered playing Pig, like something that you didn't play in the last patch when he was more dominant?
Well,
Uh,
I discovered that weights are terrible. I'm learning every day. I don't know. I feel like Pig suffers from. I think Fixer Upper still is like a kind of a specter over Pig. I feel like many games it's too easy to go for a Fixer Upper build, and I don't like that build. I mean, it's a strong build. I think it's unfun because it's like, I mean, it's kind of boring to me. Not that boring. It's like I play any build, but uh, it's just too easy to go for. So I have to like force myself to play something else. Many games that feels kind of meh, but otherwise, I like Silk a lot. I like when you get the loot opener, you can force a Silk from the kimono, and that's pretty good, I think. Um, Crook is still fine. If you get like a Regal Blade early or a dog or whatever, I mean, it's still big. It's fairly constant, I would say.
mm-hmm. So, Walter and Metal, what have you guys been playing?
Yeah, I've been completely Vanessa mode all week. As you can see, I got my Vanessa avatar with the pirate hat. Walter Cooler Vanessa mode, and I've just been trying to get more experience with every Vanessa build. So I had boulder runs, I had, dam runs, submarine stuff, flagship, one weapon double barrel, ammo stuff. I know you're not a fan of ammo, Sixten, but I still played a whole bunch of ammo runs. Yeah, I've just been having a blast with it. I mean, she's definitely just feels really um she's very stat checky, and that's good. I like that. That's part of my play style, so I've been enjoying myself. I've been enjoying the game a lot this week. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's been similar for me. I've had a little bit less time than to get in as many games as I would have liked, but mostly Vanessa. The main things that I've been trying to explore is I think Submarine is quite interesting since it lets you utilize. I think Flashy Pilot is like one of the craziest skills in the game currently. Command Ship, really
Yes.
good. And all the silver, like when you use a large item type stuff that you just can't do much with otherwise. As well as Water Wheel, which I sometimes it makes me think that Water Wheel is a little bit slept on when you try to put it in things that have nothing to do with pufferfish. I think my best run was Pearl's Dig Site just handed me icy gold electric eels. So, I had to jam that. That was a very fun run.
Yeah, so and I've also been playing so much Vanessa. I have fallen in love with this hero. Played almost exclusively dually for 3 months straight. But now I feel like I missed out on so much Vanessa stuff because, yeah, she has so many viable, archetypes, and that kind of leads us into the topic of this week, which is Vanessa's build diversity. So anyone here can take the lead on like discussing this, but I feel like we should try and cover as many of the viable, and with viable I don't mean like they are the best, just that you can actually play them and get like 7 to 10 wins if you know if the cards align. So Rahresh, maybe you can tell us about some of your favorite Vanessa builds.
I know what my favorite Vanessa build is. It's called Force Field. I think
Okay, so
it's
can you tell us how you play that basically for the view, like for people who don't know how to make that work?
so Cove Force Field is like a very niche kind of build. I think it's the strongest Vanessa build because it's reliant on a different class item. It's basically you play Vanessa Force Field, and when you get Force Field from the day 3 mob Iterite, you just that's the indicator for the build basically. For me, I get that item and I basically have to force that build every time when I see that item from Iterite on day 3. Um, you get a Cove, like they either have to get a Silver Cove before level 7 basically. So there's two conditions to this build. It's getting the Force Field from Iterite on day 3 and getting a Cove that's Silver before level 7. I think is how you play this, and it's just a very strong end game build. It's like an Exodia build late game that only uses to a disruption of to freezes basically, to large item freezes as well.
And what other
Um,
items would you play in it? Because there are of course more slots on, like, just for people
yeah,
who have
so
never played it
so
before.
so so the core of the build is you build a big cove to get shield, and then the cove which is the shield, and then the force field system in the face to kill them. The reason this comp is very strong is because of crit chance. Vanessa can stack crit very easily, and the way it interacts is this: the cove crits, deals double shield, and then the force field crits deals double damage. So every cove shield is 4 times damage. So your board wants to be basically cooldown reduction and crit percentage. So I often end up running just the star chart. So it's like cove, star chart, force field to CDR them and to give you crit chance. And then I like silencer because it syncs up the force field to the cove. You want a low delay between the cove going and the force field going, so the opponent can't break your shield between the cove casting and the force field casting. Silencer helps with that. To sync up your items, and then like that's can be like I don't know, like a Vanessa amulet. Just the crit item is the best I would say. But it can be like anything I guess. There's the board realistically. As long as you can stack crit like 2 skills, like if you get like inexorable, Besides the cove and the force field, nothing matters realistically on your board. Give me like whatever haste, CDR, disruption, like I don't know, dock lines, icicle, doesn't really matter. And I think it's very, very strong when you land it. And I've landed like I don't know 3-4 times this meta, which are pretty low honestly because I play a lot. So it's very fairly rare to get this build going, but I think it's when you do get it, it's ridiculous late game. It just kind of insta wins most of the time. So yeah, it's my favorite build, I would say.
So I have one question about it. If you get the force field on day 3, but you don't have a cove yet, how do you go about that? Would you look for a bronze cove still, or is it too late if you don't have it
I look
already?
for a cove, and if I find it, as I said before, level 7, then I play it. If I don't, then I don't play it.
All right, nice. So level 7 is the
I could mention I did actually run into that specific scenario that you're mentioning, Sixten. Earlier this week, I had a game where I found the force field, but I didn't find a cove. And what I ended up doing was I ended up running the cove with a submarine because I'd found enough insect wings to naturally bring the force field down to
Yeah, I think I actually had
almost
a game
three
like that as well.
seconds. Yeah.
I had a force field submarine game as well. I ran Swashbuckle. It's actually very kind of busted.
Yeah,
Swashbuckle
I
submarine
think it
cove.
was Sextant for
Force field.
me, but very much so, and especially if you find either of the like augmented weaponry or augmented shielding, and you get that
Yeah.
scale the submarine and the force field at the same time, like it felt crazy. It was completely insane.
Yeah, it's just because how crit interacts with that mechanic. It makes your stuff like 4x basically because they crit off each other, right? The force field and the shield item you have. So
Yeah.
it's just reliant. It's like it's the same mechanic as Fixer Upper basically, where Fixer Upper got like the last patch was doubled by the balcony, doubled by the deed. So like any small amount of shielding on the Fixer Upper became insane with the multipliers on it. The same mechanic here with the crit chance on your stuff.
Walter, do you have any like? I guess we can move on to another build. So, or I can take the lead here. I'm gonna
Well,
discuss
I
a
mean, I'm
little
happy
bit
to
about.
talk about. Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of. I really haven't been enjoying like playing some aquatic stuff. I really found like a lot of success in the mid game against other Vanessas with aquatic, and then you also often are good against pigs too because you're winning with poison in the mid game, and that is something that a lot of the pigs you're going to run into are kind of weak to.
Yeah,
Because they're a lot of times the pig mid game is like shield spam, apropos, chapeau, kind of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Pygmalion is
Um,
pretty weak to poison because they have low pressure in the early mid game. They just don't do any damage. I mean, they have scaling, but
yeah,
they
yeah,
don't have like upfront just burst. Even when they're playing like aggro build, like days 1 through 5, they can't really like burst you down that well. Not as Vanessa can, at least.
yeah, absolutely. So I've had tons of success in the early to mid with aquatic, and then if you get the right kind of enablers, you can easily take it to 10, or you can pivot to one weapon. I really liked for my late games. I mean, you mentioned the card Swashbuckle. I think it's maybe one of the strongest late game cards for Vanessa. It kind of uncaps your scaling in a way that other heroes don't have like a comparable card to it. Where like normally like your crit scaling is just like double, right? Like it's a capped form of scaling the same way like attack speed is a capped form of scaling. It can't go under a certain amount or crit can't go over a certain amount, but by uncapping that scaling, you like really open up a lot of Vanessa's skills that give you in fight crit scaling. Even it could be Flashy Pilot. That's probably like the most insane one. Is Flashy Pilot Swashbuckle Submarine is probably like that's like the most egregious example where you can scale insanely fast in the fight, or even with Flagship does it really fast too. Um, but you can actually use it with like a whole host of different skills. Like if you have a burn enchant, then there's tracer fire. If you have slow stuff going on, then there's slowed targets. There's lots and lots of ways to scale your crit chance inside the fight, and Swashbuckle just gives you that like that like final push to give you the damage to get like your one weapon build over the line in either the mirror where they're life stealing as well or against pigs. And so I think that's one of my takeaway like standout cards. Swashbuckle was always insane for me in the late game. And then the other thing is like just ammo pivot to keg. It's not like a sexy build, but it's kind of like it's like a bit of a workhorse, you know what I mean? If you want to go in and play your free game and get 7 wins, that's a really good, really reliable way to do it. Easy to put together, easy to execute. There's not that much like tough decision making, and you can also just like it also has like high upside in the same way that like something like flagship swashbuckle does, right? Where you actually can end up someplace with heated shells keg where you are competitive in the end game and can get to 10. So I know Sixten's not a fan of the ammo build, but I do think it gets there a reasonable percentage of the time. And if it and it's worth going for if it comes to you.
I don't know. I don't like ammo anymore. Ammo feels bad in this meta because the most dominant build right now I would say is like just crow's nest based builds, and when half the opponents are playing a build where all of their output kills them, ammo is like bits they struggling a bit, because you shoot them, they shoot you back, they heal, you don't heal, so you just lose eventually, and you gas out as well, like usually from ammo.
Yeah,
So
for sure, but in the same way that I feel like that the meta like the aquatic builds are better against one weapon. So like I think that
I
that
don't know.
there's been more like movement in the meta. I don't feel it's like playing yesterday and today. I don't feel like it was like one weapon only. I played against a lot of aquatic and I played against a lot of pig in the last 2 days. And so I think that like that opens the door back up for ammo.
So can I chime in here because I have strong opinions about ammo?
Yeah, I know
I
you
think
hate
ammo
ammo.
was super strong early when people were still figuring out the meta, because and this is the same in like all card games. Aggro or mono red decks will always be the strongest when a new set comes out, basically, because they punish greed, they punish unrefined decks. But what quickly happened is people basically started like single weapon specifically, as Rahresh pointed out, has lifesteal which counters aggro, and then the pigs have a lot of health stacking and shield stacking, so they can also like out tank the ammo. So I feel like the meta is super hostile right now against specifically ammo burst. So it's not that ammo is bad per se. I just think that the meta right now is so warped around it that it's very difficult to reliably get 10 wins with it currently.
I
And
would
whereas so metal
specifically,
gone.
when it comes to that, point out the major factor to me is just the current absence of dueling. Historically, almost like since the game came out, Weapon Vanessa has more or less been the natural predator of an arch enemy of dually players in any circumstance.
I
Since,
agree.
yeah, it's just so hard for them to get high base health or instant quick defenses, and Ammo Vanessa just tears them to shreds. And these
Yeah,
days, like this is the least dually I've ever seen on ladder. So when your best matchup is just reduced to dust, it's
And also,
a lot
Dooley was
tougher.
the natural predator against greedy pig. Like the reason pig was extinct on ladder a few months ago was because Dooley has farmed him in the first 8 days. So now that Dooley's gone, pig can play all these greedy, strategies in the mid game, like mid range, scaling stuff, and he doesn't get as punished by it. Like if Dooley was still strong, we wouldn't have as much pig early, I don't think. And then I think ammo would be stronger for that reason. Like, does that make sense? It's like Dooley being gone is making pig stronger
Oh yeah,
and ammo weaker. It's like a double
the
whammy.
absence of dually is warping things. I just think it's like not basically like I still feel like I get wins against one weapon as ammo fairly often. Like I don't feel as countered by one weapon as you guys
it's
are
not that.
describing it.
It's just a bad matchup. Like, yeah, obviously you can beat like weaker one weapon builds because they'll play like whatever, like Cutlass. It's like Cutlass, I think, kind of sucks.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
Agreed.
opponents play like Cutlass mid game and they just slat very slowly, like 5 seconds lineup is a long time, so you just kind of like kill them. or you can kill them in time. But yeah, like they're playing like double barrel. It's very hard to race them because there's like life still back. In my opinion, I don't know.
You kind of just
Yeah,
rely
for
on having
sure.
freezes, I think. Like if you have like 2 freezes, which is hard to have in the mid game, you can just luck out by freezing the weapon and then bursting them. But that is still,
Yeah.
you cannot force having 2 freezes in the mid game. Like that is reliant on finding the skills at the
Actually, I
right
was
time,
gonna
right?
say, speaking of freeze, I was gonna talk about swashbuckle a bit more actually. So I think Walter was saying that he likes swashbuckle in Crow's Nest build, and I don't know about that one. I think
Well,
it's a good
not
item.
necessarily with Crow's Nest. I mean, sometimes with Crow's Nest, but I just like it in as like the as your like late game scaling when you're on one of these vehicles because of the flashy pilot thing is just one of the best. I think it's one of the best end games you can have as Vanessa is to have a flagship swashbuckle flashy pilot, and that's like a uncapped form of scaling that isn't available to other characters, and it goes
Yeah, no, obviously it's
crazy.
good
Yeah,
when I mean that just makes your flashy pilot give you like I don't know 10 damage per cast. That's pretty good scaling. It's like
yeah,
gold improvised weaponry or like a diamond
yeah.
improvised weaponry.
But more than I mean, but it can be even more than that because of the swashbuckle is also one of the best artist targets. Like, there's a lot of power on the card,
You know, it's a good
and
item. I just think that in the normal flow of my games, I don't find that can happen very often. Like, first of all, I don't love. Well, I guess there might be languages you play like submarine. So if you're playing submarine, never play submarine and crow's nest. I'm still figuring out the submarine idea. Like, I don't know what the submarine kind of premise really looks like. I've played submarine games like at least five, like five or six of them. And it's always weird the submarine like angle because what's your end game is my I guess it's probably
yeah.
just
Well, one of my I mean, I played two submarine games this week that were tens, and in one it was a dam, and in the other one I had the swashbuckle flashy pilot, and those were my and just like giga scaling in fight
So I would
and
compare
ace
submarine to like sniper rifle, which is one of my favorite builds. And the problem with both is you need skills for them to be good. Like
for
sniper
sure.
rifle, in my opinion, is like I have. So this is a true fact. I have a 100% win rate with sniper rifle. In but that is because I only played it like 6 times, and I only click it if it's like earlier, right? So I get it early, get it to gold, get it to diamond, and then like I high roll obsidian enchant or something. But the problem with both is you need like weapon either like flat damage boosts, or in the case of submarine you need some kind of vehicle skill. But if you have that, I think submarine and sniper rifle are like the easiest 10 O's of my life. Like they just play themselves. It's almost like autopilot. Of course you can get countered with sniper rifle if they freeze it, but yeah, I think submarine and sniper rifle are like not as, you cannot just slam them down every time the way you can with flagship. But if you just have skills, they are super strong. But that is like my take. It's kind of I don't know if that makes sense, but that is kind of
I
how I
mean
feel about those two.
sniper rifle just has insane text on it. Like 10x is a large multiplier at diamond. Like sniper just scales very well into late game. Like there's like the multipliers on it. The issue
Yeah,
is
the
you
problem is
actually have
just it's
to.
weak at silver. Like it needs to be gold at least
Yeah,
to be good, I think.
it's weak in the mid game if you find it like in at the wrong time. Also, it's like also you know when about finding it the wrong time. It's if your skills don't match, it's hard to make a sniper rifle work if you have mismatched skills because you need like
Yeah.
base damage on it somehow. So it's hard to scale a sniper rifle in combat as well because of the low cast time. So like a cutlass can scale with like cloak or with improvised weaponry or with tempering, like any of those skills, right? Whereas a sniper rifle can't really abuse those for base damage. You need to have
That's
like
my point.
out of
You
combat base damage
you only
scaling.
click this sniper rifle if you like if you have the skills already. That is why there's kind of a confirmation bias for me there. I only click it if I know it's strong. So that is why
Yeah,
I have a 100% win rate.
yeah. I've
Anyway,
played I've played some rifle. I think I've had less rifle games than I have go force field games actually this patch.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think that's honestly the sign that it's in a good balance state. Like if items are only contextually good, then that's a healthy balance state, right? If something's good every single game, then that is like that's your first indicator that it's just an OP item, right? And so the fact that they're that they're only valid choices or only good choices on a specific run where you have specific skills is that's not like an indictment to me. That means that maybe that item is in a good balance state.
I think on the original topic of the submarine, the big thing for me has I agree with the skills for the sniper, but when it comes to submarine, it's actually at least based on the sample that I have of like an odd 10 maybe submarine games. It's come down a lot to just which enchants I get because the submarine can kind of be your carry item sometimes. But it also has a lot of potential for utility since it's obviously an enabler for Captain's Wheel. It can give you Command Ship and Flashy Pilot, but then also very importantly, Heavy Enchant is 3 items for 1 second, and Turbo is 3 items for 1 second. So a lot of the successful rounds for me have been when I get, to turn Submarine into a powered up version of like dock lines, basically. Or whenever you get Obsidian or Shiny on it. Since that's kind of that thing that Rahresh was talking about earlier, where the strongest scalers into late game are the things that you can make kind of go 4 times. And with Submarine, it feels a lot like that. When you get Obsidian, you double the damage, but doubling the damage doubles the shielding, and then when you add crit on top, you kind of have 4 times everything. It feels really powerful. But the games where I played Submarine and I didn't find something like that, I had maybe a toxic submarine or a fiery submarine or something, it felt oftentimes like it just fell off really hard. And I do think that's a good point right now, is that it feels like some items rely a lot on getting good enchants, but enchants are arguably the most random they've ever been. So I feel a little bit like sometimes it's kind of hit or miss. Like, did I hit a good enchant and easy 10? Or did I get 2 bad enchants and probably went 8 or 9 wins? Which I think
That
kind
was
of.
the case in the dueling meta as well. Like we had a
Yeah.
meta where it was
Lots of
just
builds
did I
suffer
get
from
haste
that.
or slow? If not, you won't get 10. Like that was almost how it was.
Yeah,
So
and
that is
I'll move us over to just being in topic state of the meta, and you all can kind of discuss what you think about the state of enchants to start off with, perhaps.
sure. I think, and I have said this for a long time. I think enchants are super cool and memorable. So they make the game more fun, I think, but they also make the game a lot more polarized and swingy because they decide so many like enchants. Like the level 10, I think level 10 is the biggest power spike in the game. Depending on what you get from it, like obviously there is high roll like shiny and icy, but I don't know if I like I think I like the new way it's like an artist. You have to take a bit of a gamble. But
Regarding artist, my
yeah,
Christmas wish for 2050 when they have the tech, because I know they're gonna need like some decades to get the tech for this. I wish when you get like your enchant and then the artist, they can make the artist not able to give you the enchant you just skipped to click the artist. You know,
yes.
like you
Yeah,
have
The
like,
it's
illusion of
been
choice
happening
moment, yeah.
so
you
much,
know,
and it feels so cursed when it's like, oh, restorative. I
yeah,
put
your
that on
restorative
my
enchant, then the
submarine, I'm
artist,
done.
and the artist is just the restorative with a mustache, you
Yeah,
know.
it's
Um,
like why?
but you know that the tech will be here in 2050. Don't worry, guys. The tech
I
for
actually
that.
had, I think this is a bit of a far out theory, but I've been very curious what other people would think about it. Because at the end of the day, it would still be very dependent on your board state. So I think even if you could do this, you wouldn't necessarily be able to force the same result every time. Instead, it would probably mean that you could guarantee a level 10 power spike that was way more relevant for your build. But we could only pick from the sort of base enchant, so no shiny or frozen, obviously. But you just got to pick your enchant at level 10.
I don't know about that. I think that probably will make certain things way better than other things. If you can pick your enchant, like I think if you can pick your enchant, for sure. I mean, we can start like if you want like a study experiment, you can brainstorm a bit. Then I think you would find very like you know broken things very fast. You could do that. Like just pick your thing out of like the whole pool of like normal enchants, let's say. And I mean, right now, like, do we consider Obsidian normal enchant or
I was
like?
just going to say that Obsidian Ramrod is not okay. It is not
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
Obsidian
no,
is like shiny, basically.
Obsidian. Yeah, Obsidian in general should probably be rarer than it is. I
So
don't think I've lost a single Obsidian game all patch. Like you get Obsidian on anything, you win.
Yeah, because an Obsidian weapon is like in some cases actually it's Obsidian is sometimes better than shiny on weapons. Actually, like you're playing like uh double barrel or flagship, it's better than shiny on them Obsidian enchant.
Yeah, no,
So
it's absurd.
it's like it's just double output and it's ridiculous on single weapon builds. It's not okay.
And that's
Uh,
since it's so much more common than like freeze or shiny, it definitely feels a lot of the time like this meta. The bane of my existence has been just I press the Vanessa on the PvP fight, I see Obsidian double barrel in any build, and probably like 10, 20 times, like, I'm just dead.
I mean, the Obsidian DB, how you beat them is you just freeze it. It's not radiant. That's
Yeah, yeah.
the key.
So
I
as for
love
the
these
state of the
skills.
meta, I mean, I am a known pig hater, but I personally love this meta, with the exception of so much freaking fixer-upper popping up in my games. Like, end game for me now is 50% Pygmalions again. And it's so tiring to face fixer-upper every freaking time. You know the match is over if you don't freeze it, and yeah, I feel
Well,
like
have you considered that because you're playing Weather Glass, you're losing the mid game, so you have to go later in the game to face the late game builds?
true,
Hmm.
that is true. I mean,
Conspiracy theory.
it
I
might be the weather glass, but I will blame the fixer-upper instead.
For me, it's been way less like fixer upper. I actually think I have like a 60-70% win rate against most of the time. It's the damn caltrops that get me. Every time I have some awesome looking like submarine board together, and then I got closed out. I think it was actually yesterday by heavy caltrops turbo proboscis pygmalion on day 11.
That's funny. Heavy Caltrops Turbo Proboscis.
It was so brutal. I was like, why am I just dying? Oh, with a like diamond gem that I think was like plus
Okay,
200
but answer me
something.
this. Was the proboscis bronze or silver?
It was like diamond proboscis. I had no
Wait,
idea what
diamond?
their
What?
board was like crazy. It was like it's at least silver, but it was
It
like
sounds like
It was probably a
bootstraps to
boot.
me.
Yeah, it was probably a
yeah,
bootstraps case.
it's
Yeah, I
gotta
was
be
thinking like
some kind
I was
of
thinking if the proboscis was silver, I was gonna guess it was from a mob at some point, and they held it for this purpose. If it was
it
bronze,
might have been silver. Yeah,
probably bought it
it was
from
definitely not
the vendor, right?
bronze. Yeah, no
Yeah, but that just
simple
means they could have just
material.
had it been randomly hit by B2, like
Yeah, that's
B1,
true.
B2.
But
Yeah.
either way, if it had been hit by B1, B2, then they definitely were just holding it for like 8 days just to heavy
That's true.
caltrops my
But I'm gonna be
submarine.
real. In this meta, if I lose to Caltrops, like if I'm playing like a cool build that's like not Crow's Nest and I lose to Caltrops, I'm mad because I think Caltrops is pretty bad right now
Yeah.
because
I
Dooley
agree.
is very like underrepresented and Crow's Nest build is very overrepresented. And Crow's Nest is the opposite of Dooley basically because it's a high impact per cast build. Every cast of a single weapon build, like on average, is very impactful because it's the weapon hits like just high value, like creates that lifesteal. High damage is a lifesteal even. So Caltrops is just terrible against that kind of build in just an abstract.
So I'm going to make a statement, and you guys can agree or disagree. The two best items in the game right now are Captain's Wheel and Dock Lines. Feel free to discuss.
Disagree.
Disagree.
maybe with the
No
dock
way it's
lines.
dock lines. No way it's dock lines.
I've been a bit less hot on dock lines recently,
Yeah.
but Captain's Wheel I think is busted. I think
I,
Captain's Wheel
I,
is
I
good.
Captain's Wheel much more so. It's just the fact that it right now there are so many playable larges for Vanessa that it feels it's hard to find a board that you couldn't fit Captain's Wheel on. But dock lines, a lot of the time, I want to make sure that my haste is solved before I feel like I can highly value slow on my opponent. And it's honestly been a lot easier. Like you just get like temporal strike or something, and you're pretty solved for
Yeah, I was about to say
slows.
dock lines gets replaced by skills a lot as the game goes on.
But I've been having a
Like,
really tough time replacing like the Captain's Wheel haste with skills this patch.
Like I think the issue with dock lines is I think if Langshan so I think if the item Langshan had like more base damage or like more scaling on it, I think dock lines would be better because I think dock lines goes very well in a single open build that's a medium item doesn't need like any support for it. So
You're talking about sniper rifle here, and that is why I love dock lines. It is so
I mean,
good on sniper rifle.
it's Cutlass, Langshan, or Sniper Rifle basically. Like those three are the ones that are just like standalone, their own thing, medium item. It's like any like onboard support for it. So those are the that's the build. It's just Crow's Nest, Dock Lines, Captain's Will, the weapon, and a silencer. That's the build basically. And in that build, Dock Lines is very, very strong. But right now, I feel like the best single weapon on average is double barrel, actually, because it's very good mid game and just solves many issues on its own without any support for it. I think DB is the
I'm
best
gonna
single
tell
weapon.
you why dock lines is the best item. Because
Okay.
figurehead, lighthouse, proboscis.
I mean, honestly,
It is
I
a
haven't
real
even watched
build.
this
It is
game.
a real build, I promise you.
I mean, I know. I have a YouTube video coming up about that build. I mean, I just played it like yesterday. I mean, not Lighthouse, but Proboscis just on its own with dock lines.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
figurehead. So for those who don't know, the figurehead reducing the CD of the dock line is actually crazy. It makes it like unnerved, like the OG cool LEDs from like December. That is basically 2.8-second dock lines, and then it buffs the proboscis. So it's just man, I love that build so much. I try to force it when I can, but the stars kind of have to align. You also need some kind of skills to enable it. But yeah, I love lighthouse. I love proboscis. That is my favorite. Like after weatherglass, I'm a proboscis gamer.
I mean, I definitely think like Docklines Proboscis has unironically that's been a build that I've seen since like day one of beta. And I think you can never sleep on Docklines with the exception of like charge meta. Docklines will always be a solid and powerful item. But I think it's like the number one like item that has issues with the size of the board. I think if
Yeah.
the board was like 12 slots, the last two would be dock lines like every game. But
So
the
I was going to
problem
ask
is
you
that
on
we're
flagship
on 10.
specifically. Do you guys like running dock lines there? Because I always have like on
No.
flagship specifically,
no.
I always struggle with my final board. Like, so Rahresh, could you just tell me what is your ideal like average flagship board? Like, just
Well,
could you run the numbers?
I'm gonna say average, but I mean, I'm gonna name an other hero item here. So I think flagship likes to have, Crow's Nest, Silencer. Usually run like 4x multicast on flagship. I think is the best you can hope for because you're on the Silencer still. So it's Crow's Nest, Silencer. The ships you have like 4 more slots. I think after that, which is
Captain's Wheel, right? You want for the haste?
you want a friend, ammo item, and then a medium tool, which is Captain's Will, usually, or if you can find it, I think the best item in that slot, the last two slots, is Propane Tank.
What is that?
Um,
Is that like
no- Propane Tank
Some
is a
car can
shell
destroy them.
item.
Propane
Um,
tank. Oh yeah. No, it is still it. I'll bring it up on the screen because that is one that a lot of people might not necessarily have seen.
Yes.
But you can find it from some monster fights, including the
Yeah,
one
car
that,
conductor.
yeah, who wasn't in the game for a very long time, so a lot of people definitely haven't seen Propane Tank. It's a silver plus stell item that is a tool with a 6-second cooldown that hastes your vehicles for 3, 4, 5 seconds and burns both players for 4, 6, 8 burn. But if you have a vehicle at the start of each fight, you use the propane tank, which means that you can get your flagship 5 seconds start of combat haste, and with a 6-second cooldown, if you've just gotten it down any amount from like just feathers or wings or
I mean,
whatever, it's also
it's
perma
just
haste.
it's fairly high haste uptime, just in the abstract, and it's combat start haste. And to me, the quintessential like flagship like MO, the game plan is your boat just does very high damage, a single weapon, like a double battle basically. You just burst them down. And so to me, combat start haste on the boat is very important. Because the boat's weakness is that it's just has a long wind up to it, right? It just has not like it starts very slowly. So since the Oceanic Rush nerf, and it's not like only 2 seconds on it, it feels kind of weak. Oceanic Rush on flagship. It doesn't get you there usually. So the propane tank just feels really strong to me, and I find it like very often actually in flagship games. Because the Stell vendors, you get the event, the other hero vendor event. If you find Stell in that event, this item shows up there very very often because she only has like 10 items in a pool to draw from. So you find either this or you find like a wrench or a hammer or just good utility stuff basically in her shop. So that's why I usually do in flagship games if I can find that vendor. And yeah, it's just a very strong item. The
So do
propane
you
tank
also go to
on
the
ship.
PvE? So Metal, what was the PvE card
It's
called?
the car conductor one. It's pretty much the only like vehicle specific
Yeah.
I mean,
PvP
I would fight it
guy.
anyway just because it drops 2 insane vehicle skills too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
also yeah,
that
it's just
Mad Max looking guy who's got like a captain's wheel clearly in the picture, riding some kind of vehicle, and they have a skill that makes it so that at the start of combat, your damaged vehicles gain 30% damage, and your shield vehicles gain 30%
it's
shield.
not start of it's an aura, not a start of
Oh,
combat
yeah,
effect.
like a aura, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a 30% aura buff to your damage and shielding. Something crazy actually. Should probably double dips on submarine because it
Yeah,
buffs the damage
so
and the shield
Yeah,
afterwards. Kind of
and
that's
the
a
other skill's good
very...
too. The 15% cool, like that. The other one's pretty good too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not like
what's the other
as
one?
the other one
it's
is
it's
yeah,
command
command
ship.
ship. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, command ship, yeah.
the CDR.
So that's like the nutso vendor for anything vehicle related.
The yeah,
So
it's
Or
if it's a day
encounter.
8 encounter, day 7
Yeah.
encounter.
I think we should also mention pufferfish briefly. I haven't played too much pufferfish, but I
I
feel
think
like we
buffer
should probably.
sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
puffer
I agree.
sucks.
Okay, are we all
I
in
mean,
agreement?
it's just 8 seconds is too long. Like it's that simple. Like
Yeah, I
charge
think puffer
items
the
will
card sucks, but I think
always
you can
be
have success
heavily
with aquatic
dependent on.
stuff.
The
Yeah.
reason I mention it is just because a lot of people on ladder seem to love playing it, but for me that is just a free win in the bag when I see it.
I
I mean,
think like
if
yeah,
if I'm
go on.
playing pig, I'm terrified of puffer in like the pig early game because pig likes to just like kind of tank up and heal and just like scale, and buffer kind of is it's annoying to that. But honestly, it's so weak the pufferfish. I've beaten pufferfish with like just like a full heal board, no pressure, and just winning fatigue somehow against poison with healing. That's actually ridiculous how weak it is. I can beat it with healing. Um,
Yeah, for sure. I
and
think I saw someone share a puffer build in a Discord recently where they were saying the only way they could get to 10 wins was if they had like shielded puffer, shielded catfish. And I think at that point you do have a build that can out sustain a lot of some forms of single weapon and
I mean,
a lot of ammo builds, but then
I
it's like those enchants on much better builds would do it even easier.
I can tell you the one change. The pufferfish is one change away from being playable again. And that change is return the vehicle vendor to Vanessa. If you are to do that, Buffer becomes playable. That one change makes it playable.
Can you
Because
elaborate?
now you can reliably find Shipwreck in the late game, right? And Shipwreck makes Buffer actually decent.
Yeah.
At least in my experience, so my favorite Vanessa build of all time was the old Cove Vanessa, back when you could like every level up would get you like upgrade a shield item, upgrade an aquatic item, blah blah blah, and you could super reliably get Cove to just diamond. And that was a really shipwreck centric build back when we had Gold Shipwreck. But at least how I remember it from back then was that what almost always ended up being the case was that if you were running Shipwreck with like Captain's Wheel, Catfish was just so much better than Pufferfish. And I'm just kind of wondering, you don't think that would just end up being the case again?
Well, I
Well,
think
no,
it's already
because
the case. I think
Captain's Wheel is
Puffer
different then.
sucks. Yeah, but also like I just think that like you shouldn't conflate pufferfish with aquatic, and that actually like you can play pufferfish till like day 6 or something, but that should actually not be in your final aquatic board in almost any case.
Yeah,
And
no, I
like the
mean, I'll
way,
play any
yeah,
item as like a placeholder item.
Yeah.
I don't mean like Puffer as a build. I mean when I say it sucks.
Yes, I meant it's just like a full-on 10-day build, basically. I played Puffer for tempo early, mainly because it's a friend, so it's for the furry encounter. I always just grab it from Mittel. But find you want to replace the Puffer ASAP with a different source of damage.
yeah,
Like a
or
weather glass, for example.
yeah, or like
Still
fiery
coping
seaweed
on
or
that
whatever.
one.
Like there's actually like you have more like your way to kill as puffer or not puffer. Your way to kill as aquatic does not have to be puffer. I should say is like it's. I think puffer is the worst way to kill. It takes up too many board slots and it's too fucking slow.
So
It's just a
the
weak card.
the main thing is that I know some good people, good players on the ladder who used to say back when Puffer was still considered decent, like at 6 seconds, and when you can get the charge to like 3 seconds and all that. But the reason they thought Puffer was a good item wasn't because Puffer was good at dealing damage. It's honestly like it's kind of never been that good at dealing damage. But for a while, it was insanely good at being the fastest aquatic and medium trigger in the game, which offers you a lot of synergies. Like you could do it with
Yes.
Crane, you could do it with
Medium. I
Skill.
was gonna say
Yeah.
Crane as a joke, but you said Crane ironically.
No, I remember that. There was like a week straight where I would face like 2 or 3 Puffer Crane gamers like every day.
The Buffer Crane
It
gamers, the
was
Buffer
wild.
Crane
And
meta.
they just put it into like integer overload and just wham me for like
I must have missed
12.2
this meta,
damage or
the Puffer
whatever.
Crane. I must have been sick.
It was
The puppy,
You know,
the
vicious.
puppy crane.
just yesterday I was playing Crane Crow's Nest with an icy hammock from the encounter from the mob, the icy chili
Oh, that's
Charles.
crazy, yeah. Two
Yes.
seconds.
Hammock Crane.
Oh,
That was a
but
10 wins.
kind of brings me to my main point of like the issue with Puffer right now, and obviously it's also been used as a trigger for like Pearl and for Turtle Shell, but at 8 seconds with 2 second charge, you're just never getting it quick enough to be relevant.
It's just very slow. I think I'm playing it wrong, the buffer build. I think I've tried making it work with like water wheel and it's just a mistake. I suspect the way to play buffer involves figurehead and figurehead only. Like you play
Yeah.
like no
Yeah,
water
figurehead,
wheel.
and then later on it gets replaced by shipwreck if you find it. That is definitely the way to go. Water wheel is kind of meh too. I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Because it starts you faster as well.
But I will say that the obsidian change benefited Puffer a lot. So or not Puffer, sorry, benefited aquatic builds a lot. I keep calling it Puffer.
Yeah.
I hate the card Puffer. Because it gives you a way to turn your shield scaling into damage, and it's like it went from like finding an enchant that's totally dead when it was lifesteal to finding an enchant that's insanely good for you. When you have turtle shell plus obsidian pearl goes absolutely crazy. Like there's a ton of good targets for obsidian in puffer builds, so or aquatic builds. I'm sorry, I keep doing it.
So my final thing to add here is just how I play Weatherglass, because that is my passion, and it's all thanks to Ragnar. He taught me this build basically. So for those that don't know, Weatherglass itself is not always your win condition. Oftentimes it's your support item. So for example, you can play Weatherglass for tempo in the mid game with aquatic stuff, and then later you find a powder keg, you upgrade your keg, you stack crit, and then you get like invigorating cold with like a start of game freeze or something. And then Invig works so that it goes from left to right. So that means if you place like your Weatherglass and like your lighter to the far left, at the start of the game, if you have like, a freeze effect with like an icicle, you haste your Weatherglass and your lighter, and then within like 4 seconds of the fight, your keg goes off, assuming you of course have some CDR, yada yada yada, and then they just die. So that is one way. Another way to play it is you play it with so you find like a rainbow potion, which is I think most people are familiar with it. Basically, a rainbow potion makes your Weatherglass 5x immediately, so you don't need any other Weatherglass items. Meaning you can just play the rainbow potion and the Weatherglass as a single unit, and then you have like 7 more, board slots for whatever you want. And then finally, I have been having some success with Weatherglass Ritual Dagger. So Ritual Dagger is an item that they recently changed. It now says when you deal damage with this item, gain that much regen. And if you can find any source of scaling, there is a skill called Toxic, which says whenever you poison, your weapons gain 10 damage. You can get that Ritual Dagger to insane levels of damage. And then I have had like wins where I just literally have like 1,000 regen and I'm like immortal. So I've had so much fun with Weatherglass. I know it's not like a meta build per se, but I
So I
think it's
guess it's
super
kind of
fun.
like power drill in a
Yeah,
way
it's
where
like drill. It's exactly like drill, actually, I would
it's
say.
very versatile in that way that it just has because it does many things. Like it has high cast per second, has 2 different effects on it. It just has synergy with a bunch of skills
Yeah,
and
it's
items.
a trigger engine.
Yeah, and like drill, it can either be your main source of damage. Like if you have a ton of burn, or like God forbid, conflagration is crazy if you have like a hasted Weatherglass. There is also the dragon skill that says whenever you use a medium item, your burn items get like, I don't know how much burn is it they get. Is it like 10
It's
burn?
one burn item gets 15 burn.
Yeah, 15. So if your only burn item, like assume you have Rainbow Potion and Weatherglass, and then you have the freaking Dragon skill, that is also like a nuke. Like that is like there is.
I
If
mean,
you're just a bit
honestly,
creative, it's
the
so
the
much fun.
dragon skill makes anything crazy. Like dragon
Okay,
skill is
true.
busted.
But
I
like drill basically,
yeah, I
it can either
think
be your weapon or your support.
my main counterpoint would be that at least like from a theoretical perspective, the thing I've always seen as the key like issue with Weatherglass is that it's a 6 second base cooldown, and it's not a weapon, so you can't use silencer to bring that down. And it's also not aquatic, so you can't use aquatic rush to make it faster either. So I just always see it as having a little bit of a upper cap on what it's capable of as a 6 second base
Yeah.
cooldown non-charging item without
The
usable
the issue with
tactics.
Weatherglass is what's your like sustain engine in that build?
So let me see. Can I just post it for you guys to see here, like a run I had, or is that?
Yeah, we can do that. We can
Let
treat
me.
that as a first board of the week, and then we'll move into
All right.
our viewer
Just give
submitted
me a
board
second
of
here,
the
then
week.
sort by date. All right, so I post in general here, guys, and then you can have a
Yeah,
look. So this is
I'll
a board
bring
I
that
had
up.
yesterday, where I had Ritual Dagger. So
Yeah,
my haste
you had
engine
a
is a double barrel.
shield Weatherglass. That's like like sustain is like healing.
Yeah,
So
that's my
like
point. Like
if
the
you
enchants
can't
are also
land
crazy.
if you can't land a lifesteal engine on the Weatherglass, what happens? You just die. I feel like you're too slow to do anything. No, like
No, like so what happened? Like I had success. Like the enchant came, later. Basically, this originated as an aggro build. Like I was playing Weatherglass, and then I had, oh, I don't have the skills. So I have Toxic. Toxic says whenever you use a poison item, your weapons gain 10 damage. So in the mid game, I had like Weatherglass as like a figurehead that could scale the ammo weapons, and then later I found the Basilisk Fang, which is like a lifesteal weapon for sustain. And then later in the game, I also found the shield enchant, which made me go from an like mid-range build into full-on control. So like this build right here has insane shielding, insane damage scaling, and insane haste. Like it is so fast. So that is just like an example of the Weatherglass being so versatile. It started out as like almost like a figurehead because of the skill. Then it became more of like a you know support item for staying alive, but it could also have like a ton of burn on it. So my point is just that Weatherglass is like it's like a multi-tool. It can be anything you want it to be. It's like a Swiss Army knife basically. So of course this was a bit of a high roll run, but I hope that can inspire some people to like try and experiment because this I
Yeah,
just love that item.
I think it has potential. It's just so every crow's nest run I have, the end board looks like about the same, right?
Yeah.
All the screenshots of your other glass boards are like every board is like completely different. Like
Yes.
other glass like
That is true.
random stuff. So it's the consistency of it seems dubious in that case because like you have to like cook this stuff up every game. Like there's no formula to it. There is no like like pattern to it. Is the
I
issue
mean
with the
that is
weather
kind of
glass?
like drill, right? Like drill, you don't always get the same skills every time, but of course there's more consistency because of the core. But I feel like it's not that dissimilar from drill. Like you pick up the
Well,
Weatherglass and then you try
Yeah,
and
your
find stuff
items
to
are
make it better.
match. Yeah, your items
I
match your
think the
skills.
really big difference here is that the main items on this board that you've submitted that enable the weather glass, none of them are consistent Vanessa items, whereas on drill, you're looking for like metronome, a duly specific item that you can somewhat reliably find, paired with like duly skills that you can usually somewhat
So
reliably
there
find
are
as
like you can
well.
play Captain's Wheel, for example. You can play Water Wheel. Like there are ways to get haste on it or invigorating cold. Like haste is like it is kind of like flagship in that your big bottleneck is finding haste on the weather glass. Like you want that to go off as fast as possible. But I don't think you have to find items from other heroes. It's just if you find items from other heroes, it gets completely crazy. So that is kind of the thing there. Like I have a lot of weather glass boards with only Vanessa items, often with a keg in the late game, for example, but yeah, I just wanted to,
I
sing some
think
praises for this.
this is not bad. This idea, like if an item, so if you're looking for one specific out, then it has to be common. But if you're looking for any of like 15 very low odds outs, well, it all converges and gives you decent odds overall. So like if other glass crystal is like a million things, then yeah, it's fine. But it's just like it's very complex to pilot, and it's you know the roof of error just goes up and up. So
Yeah, I think
I
it's you.
I
This is
think
kind of you just
that
have to play it by ear, right? Like it is almost like
yeah
improvisation. Like every time I get a weather glass, I just have to improvise the rest of the run and see
yeah
what happens. But that is true. So that is why Crossness is probably better because it's a lot easier to just force
like
it, if that
for
makes sense.
for fun, I think you can pilot this to like 10 wins. Like if you really try, like if you try like if you wanna enjoy like the process of it. But I think trying to like cook up this kind of like weird other class stuff is like the only feasible way to not go 10. Like like how do you want a way to not go 10? You just cook up like some like weird like niche scenario where like nothing applies. It's all new. Like that's
I
the
mean,
only thing.
sometimes you don't find the crow's nest. Like I know it's unlikely, but there will be games where you don't get, crow's nest, and then maybe you get the weather glass with the like your kit gives you two poison skills, for example. Like there is a lot of variance in the game, so I agree that this is not the best build by any means, but I think it's at least very fun. And I also want to say I have gotten so many 10 wins with it, so I don't think it's bad either. It's just hard to force it.
No,
That is
I'm
the only
saying
problem.
I think if you apply yourself to the build, I think it's if you know okay, if you have like this uh encyclopedic knowledge of the game, like all the items, all the other hero items, like like what the Rainbow Potion is, where it comes from, what the mobs drop, where all this stuff comes from, what all the skills are, etc. I like this like cohesive, holistic knowledge of the game, and you know all these outs, and you can look for them, like seek them out specifically. Then for sure there is a way to make this like to find the line to make this like playable, because you know like what I find slow, what I find haste, what I find etc. And when you get a good drop, you know what, that's a good drop. Like I've seen streams of people get like this insane drop, and they're like, oh, this is garbage. They just sell it like it's crazy. So if you have the knowledge, you can make it to get there. But I just think it's like it's very convoluted.
Yeah, that's fair. So that is all I have to say on Weatherglass. But so let's move on to the Swift Metal.
Yes, we've
the build
got
of the week.
a viewer submitted build for any other viewers who might be interested. We have a mail for the podcast, A Bazaar Podcast at gmail.com. And we have a user within who sent us this build that I've been kind of teasing Sixten that he might feel a little bit nostalgic for. We have a force field dually. So this is Within's build titled Force Field Instant Kill, where he has a atomic clock with a diamond fiberglass, crit core, security camera, and a poisonous force field.
And defense grid. That is the most
And
important
defense
thing to
grid, of
mention.
course. Bronze
Bronze
defense grid,
defense grid.
but
Oh,
we,
is it only
we got
bronze?
it there. Yeah, it's a bronze defense grid.
You don't need more than bronze. Bronze is enough.
Yeah.
True.
I just really like just looking at the synergy between having the silver crit core with the gold security camera. It's not every day you get to see a final board with a security camera on it. Normally you only see it in our podcast background.
Well, it has one of my favorite cards, Atomic Clock, so I really like it. I think probably this board wins because of the power of Atomic Clock, because Diamond Atomic Clock with, what is that, 8 ammo or something, just is gonna solo.
It's six ammo, and especially
ammo.
it's of course having atomic clock with fiber optics specifically.
Yeah, for sure. But but honestly, like just like these 6 charges of Atomic Clock is a really strong counter to one weapon.
Yeah, for sure. I think just in general, I'm very happy we got Atomic Clock back at 1 second, since for anyone who still wants to just have fun on Dually, having a 1 second activator is definitely one of the main ways that you can make him do things in the late game that are fast enough to stay relevant.
For sure. You could also, it's really good to charge your Isocoric Freezer with the Atomic Clock.
Yeah.
Fiber optics combo. That's the, like, if you want to go full on, like, I really hate one weapon Vanessa, you could have some dually builds that are extremely hateful towards one weapon Vanessa, and will almost certainly
I
beat every
think,
version
like,
of them.
yeah, on the topic of the actual best item in the game, I think it's hands down Isochloric Freezer, and second place is not close. That item is absurd.
I think
I don't know
number
if
one
it's
is
the best
double barrel.
item in the game.
And is not close.
Double barrels, that's a fair contender, yeah. Double barrel is also a bit on the absurd side.
I think ISO Freezer takes 4 seconds to wind up, and I've killed dualies in like 3 seconds with haste to my double barrel very often.
Yeah,
So
I definitely think it's largely held back by being on the hero that's arguably not in the most powerful spot currently. I think if we'd seen this version of Isochloric Freezer on a previous stronger version of Dually, people would maybe have been a touch upset.
My pick is Wanted Poster for the best card.
That's
You don't
also
have to play
fair.
it.
Wanted
My pick
posters.
is Captain's Wheel, but I already let that be known earlier.
Yeah.
But
Alright.
anyways, that more or less wraps us up. We'll do socials just as the final thing. We can start with our guest. Rahresh, where can people find you?
People can find me at twitch.tv/Rahresh, or I guess it's my YouTube called. Also Rahresh, youtube.com/@Rahresh, I guess. So that's That's where I can be found.
Yeah, perfect. Walter?
You can find me lurking in Sixten's chat, telling him to buy silver chocolate bars on day 3 and to greed for B1, B2.
And Sixten?
You can find me at Twitch at 2610. You can find me at YouTube on with the same name. And you can find me on this podcast, of course, as the host. I think that covers most of my things. And
Yeah,
Metal?
and same for me, both on Twitch and on YouTube with the same username, MetallFenix. I stream sporadically since I work a day job. And my YouTube is currently empty, but I do have plans to start uploading some of the game highlights from my occasional streams as soon as I can get around to editing them. And I
All
think,
right, so
yeah, that'll be
Yeah,
it
thank
for
you
us.
for coming on, Rahresh. We appreciate
and
it.
thank you, Rahresh, so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun to talk with you about all of this.
Yeah,
Eh,
rank 1 player and King of Vanessa, arguably perfect guest for today's podcast. Thank you
I
very
don't want to be
much.
Vanessa King. I want to be the Pygmalion King.
Yeah, you're
Pygmalion
hoping see the comeback of the pig on Wednesday.
Pig is more fun, I
Yeah.
think.
Hey,
But
he
yeah,
needs someone standing for him, you know.
I'll be
That's
the
true.
king of the world. I don't know. I'll be the king of all.
Perfect energy.
Honestly,
That's what
I'm a
keeps
Dooley
you
main.
rank 1.
I'm a Dooley main actually, because right now I think I have the most games played on Dooley than most classes. Not this patch, but that's overall in my career of Bazaar, I played more Dooley than both other classes combined, probably. So I'm a Dooley main,
Fair
therefore.
enough. Yeah,
But yeah.
so thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you for the next episode.